If you're looking outside right now, it's probably still not raining. Before we start tonight's meeting, we'll have our prayer led by one of our newer councilmen, Rick Mihalovich, and then please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. On the eve of our celebrations of our nation's independence, let us remember the many individuals that have helped secure and maintain our independence and freedoms. Our Father above, as we remember and pay tribute in our own special way, let us be reminded that we too have the opportunity to raise above individual actions and work as a body to better the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. To that end, I ask for your guidance. Amen.
Amen. All right, once again, welcome. We will have roll call, please.
Bray. Here. Carroll.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Lubert. Mihalovich.
Here.
Pope.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Schulte. Scribner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Next, we'll have minutes and reports received and filed here at City Hall. All underneath number 7. I think they speak for themselves. If you want to join one of our councils, or excuse me, one of our commissions or boards, you can do so by going to our website and filling out an application. Next, we'll have council committee reports. First will be the administration committee, chaired by Councilwoman Carrie Carroll.
Thank you. At last week's administration committee meeting, we discussed the smoking policy at the Housing Authority after we had had some residents come to our council meeting and ask the council to review that. We found out there's really not very many other cities in the state that have policies over their housing authority unless the city itself controls their housing authority. So we asked them to put it on their next agenda for the next housing authority meeting to specifically address some of the issues that were brought up by their residents. So we'll have an update at the next administration committee meeting, which will be Wednesday, July 25th. We also did some appointments review, which are listed on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Sean Schulte's not able to be with us tonight. Filling in is co-chair, Mr. Ralph Bright.
The Finance Committee, the next meeting for the Finance Committee will be September the 25th.
All right, thank you, Ralph. Moving on, Public Safety is Dr. Brian Pope.
Thank you, Mayor. We have not had a meeting since our last council meeting, but our next public safety meeting will be on Thursday, August the 2nd, following the brown bag.
All right, moving on to Public Works, Bob Scribner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our last Public Works Committee meeting was last Thursday. During that meeting, we discussed several things to move forward to the council, 4 of which are on the consent agenda tonight. And then we also discussed the Adopt Street program, which will be a bill that will be introduced tonight as well. So our next meeting will be Thursday, July the 19th, across the hall. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on, liaison reports. I think Larry Henry has a report for the Environmental Quality Commission. Larry.
Thank you, Mayor. Our last meeting was June 21st. The discussion centered around the recycling update on the efficiency of the program for Ms. Hershey. We also discussed the resolution of the livable streets policy, and also discussed the environmental and outreach and education on how we continue to get that moving forward. Our next date for our next meeting is tentative at this time.
All right, thank you, Councilman Henry. Moving on to appointments by the mayor. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion to approve. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. First on our agenda tonight is Chief Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I'm sure the council knows, there is a police personnel board comprised of 7 members, 7 volunteers from our community. They really have broad power and serve to advise the police department and the council regarding really every element of the police department and every consideration. At a recent meeting, the board discussed the possibility of meeting or coming before the council and sharing some thoughts with you. And so I believe Mr. Chris Ricks is here. He is the chairman of the Police Personnel Board, and I'll defer to Chris.
Chris, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Do you have other members of your board here?
And I will introduce them.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great.
Mayor Strumpf, members of the City Council, city officials, administrators, and guests, thank you for this opportunity to address the City Council. My name is Chris Ricks, and I am the chair of the Jeff City Police Personnel Board. I would like to take just a few moments of your time to reintroduce our board to the council and give you a brief description of what our duties are. Please allow me to introduce our board members. Our vice chair, who is not here tonight, is Don Klein. Our board secretary is Curtis Cray. Curtis? One of our board members is Ray Bledsoe. Kelly Dillon, George Menzie, and Lisa Turner. Each of these board members brings a different perspective to the board and to the diversity of backgrounds that has served us well through the years. Personally, I retired as a captain from the Missouri State Highway Patrol after 35 years of service. While I was with the patrol, I served as assistant director of the Human Resources Division, and I was also the assistant director of the patrol's training division. When I retired from the patrol, I was director of the patrol's public information and education division. I also currently am an adjunct instructor for Columbia College, teaching here in Jeff City and on the main campus in Columbia. Donald Klein, who was not able to be here tonight, once served on the City Council. He represented the 3rd Ward. He was chair of the council's police board and later served as the Police Personnel Board chairperson. He was employed as a juvenile officer, director of juvenile court services for the 19th Judicial Circuit, which is Cole County, and then worked for the Department of Corrections, retiring as deputy warden. Don is also an adjunct instructor for Lincoln University. Curtis Cray is employed by Lincoln University as the vice president for administration with 20 years experience supervising campus police and human resource departments. Many of you know Ray Bledsoe because he served on the police department for more than 30 years. Ray retired as a captain from the Jeff City Police Department. Kelly Dillon is employed by the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel, the Missouri Lawyer Regulatory Agency, which is overseen by the Missouri Supreme Court and handles the investigations of ethical misconduct by Missouri lawyers. Kelly is a certified fraud examiner, teaches CLEs for the Missouri Bar, and is an adjunct instructor for William Woods University. George Menzie spent his life in law enforcement, serving first at the Cincinnati, Ohio Police Department and later at the St. Louis Police Department. George also served as an investigator for the Cole County Prosecuting Attorney's Office and was Marshal of the Supreme Court of the state of Missouri. He was also the first state of Missouri Circuit Marshal after that position was established by the legislature. Lisa Turner owns and operates a private business here in Jeff City. She's a lifelong area resident. She's a member of the Chamber of Commerce and of the West Side Business Association. Now, why did I tell you about all the people on this board? I wanted you to understand that we have varied backgrounds, and we all come to the personnel board with different views and different perspectives. During a recent board meeting, we decided that you, our city council, our elected representatives, should know who we are and what we do. Thus, I've asked for these moments of your time. While the city charter in section 6.3 and city ordinances 7.151 through section 7.159 give our board wide latitude, and if you have not read it, you need to look and see exactly how much wide latitude we really have. We primarily focus on ensuring the police department's hiring and promotional processes are fair, that they are proper, and that they are free of favoritism. We also serve as the disciplinary appeal board for employees who wish to appeal any disciplinary action that has been brought against them. I believe that this board, through the years, has helped the city develop a very intense and a very fair hiring procedure for the position of police officer and for the position of 911 operator. As a board, we have reviewed the procedures being utilized by the department for hiring in these two positions, and we have found them to be fair and free of outside influence. We approve the testing dates whenever we have openings, and we ensure that proper posting of those openings is adhered to by the city. Our board members administer and proctor all written tests for entry-level police officer and entry-level 911 operator positions. We also review, as we did tonight, each individual who scores both a passing written test grade and a passing physical test score, and determine if there's anything in their background that would keep them from becoming a Jefferson City employee. The background review is done without board members knowing a person's name, without us knowing their race, without us knowing their religion, or without us knowing their gender. It is my opinion that the hiring procedures utilized by the Jeff City Police Department are fair and impartial. Our board is becoming more and more involved with the promotional processes utilized by the department. Previous boards have approved the systems currently being used, and our board is becoming more familiar with the systems and how they're administered. During the next set of promotional interview boards, members of the Police Personnel Board will observe the interviews to help ensure the process is operating as designed. And as a board, we normally meet monthly, and during that meeting we talk openly and bluntly with Chief Schrader and other city employees. We see our mandate as one that ensures the department hires and promotes the best and most qualified individuals. Thus, having open and free discussions with the administrators of the police department is critical. We also see as part of our mandate and our mission working with the police department to ensure they are recruiting and seeking employees that will reflect the diversity of our community. And as a board, we are concerned when we have openings within the department. While Jefferson City has a fairly low rate of turnover in both the police officer position and 911 operator position, we do have 5 to 6 police officer positions that come open each year. That's a turnover rate of about 6 to 8%, which is extremely low when compared to other departments comparable to Jeff City. Since our process takes 8 months for an applicant to complete, we are very concerned about falling behind when it comes to hiring new officers. Even after a new officer has been hired and has completed their basic training, there is a lengthy period of time where the officer goes from being assigned to a field trained officer until that officer becomes a seasoned and experienced road officer. When an officer leaves the agency or is promoted to the next level, it takes close to 13 months to replace that officer. As a board and as citizens of the city of Jefferson, we would ask our city council to be cautious when reducing the budget for the police department. A budget reduction usually means a reduction in the number of officers working our streets. A reduction in the number of officers working a reduction in the number of officers working can take years to resolve if and when money is restored to the budget. And of course, a reduction in police personnel must be weighed with public safety and with the safety of the officers that remain. We do want you to understand that in no way are we implying that there are not other fine departments and agencies within city government. To the contrary, we work within the framework of our city's charter, and we know that Jefferson City has many excellent employees that do work beyond what normally be expected. We are very aware that each part of city government must make sacrifices, and you, as our elected representatives, are given the tough task of allocating increasingly scarce resources. We only ask and plead that you look hard at the unintended consequences that may occur when reducing the police department's budget. We feel we have an excellent police department and that they have served our citizens very well over the past several years. As citizens of the state's capital city, we have a lot to be proud of, and our police department is no exception. Having served with the patrol for 35 years, I've seen a lot of police officers. You should be extremely proud of the people you have serving in your police department. They are by far one of the best group of individuals I have ever had the pleasure of working with. Visitors to the state capitol feel safe as they walk our streets, and we feel that can be directly attributed to our police officers. As citizens who work with the police department regularly, we feel the Jefferson City Police Department is an excellent agency and an agency you should be extremely proud of, as we are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks, for coming here this evening. Any questions from the council, Mr. Ricks? Mr. Scribner.
What is the tenure of the, I guess two questions. One, how's the police board selected? And how long do you serve?
We serve 3-year terms, and we are allowed to serve 2 terms.
Okay.
And we are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council.
So it's just like any other commission or board?
I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
the way the rest of them are run
That's
also.
pretty standard
Yes.
practice, I think. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I want to thank you again for coming, Mr. Ricks, and also want to thank your board members for serving. Also want to thank the members of the FOP that are here tonight. This is kind of off the cuff, no prepared speech, but as your mayor, this is kind of what a budget looks like. A budget's more or less like this pitcher of water. You only have so much revenue and or water in that pitcher. Across the city, we obviously have different cups we try to fill. Keeping fire and police filled to the brim, we'd like to do at all times. Luckily, with the revenue numbers that the council approved last week Thursday, our budget looks better than what we first anticipated. So hopefully as time goes on, things will look better, but I do appreciate everyone's input here this evening. Moving on, I think Councilman Pope, and we have another former councilman. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I missed Chief Rennick. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to introduce tonight the co-chairs of the Centennial Committee, Steve Holtmeyer and Tim Young. They have a presentation they would like to make to the city on behalf of the Centennial Committee.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We thank you for letting us attend this evening. As many of you know, 2012 marks a century of full-time service provided by the fire department to the citizens of Jefferson City. Throughout the year, we've had a number of planning processes for the events that are coming up. Our committee has chosen to present the city of Jefferson with a commemorative flag. They're just like the ones that are flying on High Street, but we want to present this to the entire city of Jefferson for their support and help with our centennial event this year. Oklahoma back in January attempted to, well, they did break the Guinness Book of World Records. The state of Oklahoma in January broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of fire engines in a parade. Like anything Missouri does, we can beat Oklahoma at this. So we're gonna shoot for 300 and see what happens.
How many did they have?
220. So I think we can beat that comfortably with 300 people, with 300 fire engines.
So to the city council setting behind us here, a few extra trucks in this year's budget could help.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks again, guys. And Chief, appreciate everything you do for the department. As a former firefighter, Chief was a rock star as I was growing up in high school, and he's still here today. Great leadership for our department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. He needs little introduction, but if Mike Harvey would come up to the podium and speak to us about our upcoming Fire Improvement Plan campaign. He's co-chair of this effort and had been Public Safety Chairman for a time, and he's the perfect person to work on this project.
Mr. Harvey, welcome back.
Good evening, all. Council, staff, everybody else that's here. It's good to see you again. And no, I've really been enjoying my time away. Thank you very much. They didn't just really dust me off and bring me out to talk about this. When I came on the council in April of 2004, one of the first invitations I had was to go visit the fire departments and the firehouses and see the conditions they were in. It was evident then, as it is evident now, that there's some changes that need to be made. Tight budget constraints always make that difficult, but the Band-Aids that we put on in the 2000s are starting to fall off. Well, you just can't keep re-Band-Aiding a problem. It's time to move forward. As most of you know, as of noon today, the kickoff for Prop 2, which I think has got a sort of an official title of Jefferson City Quarter-Cent Fire Department Improvement Plan, took off at Firehouse 1. It was a good turnout. I would have been wearing my t-shirt tonight, except I soaked it in the garage over at Firehouse 1, so it's in the biz bag now. But anyway, Rich Kuhn was supposed to be here, I guess, and I always kind of rely on him to be the money guy, but I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of Prop 2, and because I'm not scripted, I figure I'm just going to ramble on for about a half hour, 45 minutes, if that's okay with you all.
Just like the old days.
Okay, well anyway, some of the benefits of Prop 2 is obviously increased medical service. The current first responder service would be upgraded to advanced life support service provided by the firefighter paramedics. That's one of the benefits. Improved response times. We have an excellent response time for our firefighters and our police department, but you know, when your house is, the smoke is coming out of the windows of your house, a minute is an hour. So anytime that we can improve our response times for our citizens and those folks that are visiting our community is definitely a plus. With the lowering of the what is called an ISO rating, there's a benefit to lower insurance premiums on your businesses and your residences also through this program. And one of the biggest things and important to me is the upgrading of the equipment, training and personnel, the personnel that they have there with new life-saving equipment as well as bunker packs and other things that are antiquated. We have very old equipment, very heavy equipment. And as far as expectations are concerned, if your house is on fire, you call 911. That's a plea for help. The resident of that home is expected that the fire department will have people there that are capable of getting in and getting out your loved ones or your possessions or whatever is in dire straits. One thing that's important to me is that the firefighter comes back out too, safe. And how that happens is with good gear and good training. So that's very important, I think, also in this program. And of course, with public education and increased training, these are all good packages. And in return, what's in it for me is a 17% reduction in property taxes and personal property taxes. The trade-off is pretty good. If any of you have seen the literature that it was mailed out to, I guess, just about every mailbox in Jefferson City over the past week, you'll see that the average the average person in the average house with the average income is looking at $4 a year increase spent. That's pretty cheap. What's in it for me? So anyway, I'm not going to ramble on tonight. I'm sure we'll be back here before the council again and talking about other things as we go through this process. It's not a long process, by the way. We're looking at the 7th of August. So we may be back every week. Lucky you guys. I will respond to, I think there was, the firefighters were on the radio this morning, and there was a call in from somebody from a different county wanting to know why is it important that he pay into our firefighters here. And I guess the first, because you know I usually speak before I think, and I'll do that again. When someone calls 911, we don't ask for verification of residence. That same person from that other county could be here on the side of the road with his car on fire, maybe a wreck, and his family's trapped. We don't look for that other county to come save those folks. So that's why. That's why. And when we shop in other communities, we're paying into their firefighters' funds as well, because taxable money spent goes to all city coffers and goes to pay for their fire departments and their police departments and everything else. So anyway, that being said, I'm through with you all. If you have any questions before I leave your mic. Thanks.
Mike, thanks for being here
See you
tonight.
next time.
Good seeing you again.
You bet.
Okay, moving on. Nothing under 11 or 12 this evening. At this point in time, we'll look at the consent agenda, which was looked at a pre-meeting just before this. At this point in time, unless anyone has any problems, we would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda A through G. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. No bids over $50,000 tonight. Next, we'll have bills introduced, and we'll have first reading of Bill 2012-41.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving an amended final PUD plan for property located at 2304 Lorenzo Green Drive, described as part of the southeast quarter of Section 24 and part of the northeast quarter of Section 25, Township 44 North, Range 12 West, Jefferson City, Cole County, Missouri.
Okay, Janice McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this amendment is to expand the uses that are allowed on this property. Currently, the uses are limited to florist, greenhouse, plant nursery, outdoor storage, and sales of landscaping material. And this proposed amendment would expand those list of uses by adding other permitted uses of the C1 neighborhood district, and specifically the owner's plan is to divide the existing building so that a hair salon and spa can be located in this building. The public hearing is scheduled for the next meeting, July 16th at 6 p.m. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Next, please. We'll have the next reading.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri pertaining to the Adopt a Street program.
Janice.
Thank you, Mayor. The Adopt a Street program was started in 2011 as a way for the city to partner with individuals and groups to help keep city right-of-ways litter-free. It closely mirrors MoDOT's program of the same name. And since the passage of the original ordinance, 6 groups have signed up to be adopters of various sections of right-of-way. This amendment expands the program to allow landscaping and plant maintenance in city right-of-ways and on city property, including roundabouts. And it also moves the article from Chapter 15, which is Health and Sanitation, to Chapter 32, which is Streets and Sidewalks. And the bill that you have in your packet has an attachment that indicates where the specific changes are, what differences there are between the version that's now in Chapter 15 and the amended version that's going to be in Chapter 32. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Janice? All right, moving on, we'll have a third reading of 2012-37.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by separating offenses requiring a mandatory court appearance to maximize municipal court software efficiency.
Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will change the code slightly to have a single section identified where there's an accident involved. That way, this court software can require an appearance and won't let it be paid out of court. We've done this a couple other times, and we've continued to tweak it, and hopefully this will be the last.
Okay. Any questions of Drew? Any debate by council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on, we'll have third reading of 2012-38.
An ordinance amending the code of the city of Jefferson, Missouri by deleting the sunset provision for temporary outdoor consumption permits.
Okay, I understand that we have a substitute in the packet. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion to take up the substitute. Councilman Bray.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to accept the substitute.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor of taking up the substitute, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That's unanimous, so that obviously passes. We'll now take up, we'll now have a third reading of the bill as substituted.
Actually, I don't think we need to read it a third time. Didn't Phyllis already read it a third?
Did you do the substitute?
Yes, the same
Oh, my
title.
bad. Okay, discussion, Drew.
This bill, the substitute bill does three things. One, it takes care of the sunset provision, so this will be an ongoing concern, just as all other ordinances in the code are. It sets the fee into Appendix Y. Since it will be an ongoing concern, we need to have that identified. And third, what the substitute does is just made a tweak of the language. Instead of saying over the age of 21, we say 21 years of age or older, so there's no confusion about whether a 21-year-old can be there or not.
Okay, any discussion on Bill 2012-38 as substituted? Councilman Pope.
My question is for our police chief. If you have been able to estimate the additional cost to the department for these types of activities, in that your overtime or additional personnel required.
Well, I recognize that was briefly discussed at the last meeting, but maybe I misunderstood. I didn't know that we were directed to do that computation. There are a lot of different types of activities in which we become involved, and so with a little bit of time we could certainly provide that, but of course it would depend on what we're talking about. A festival district activity is different than a parade, which might be different than some other type of private activity, a special event. So with just a little bit of direction, we can certainly provide that for the next meeting or before if you wish.
Dr. Pope, I think from the discussion that I heard, and I forget what committee it was at, or maybe it was here, I think it was maybe the budget meeting, was it, or not?
We did talk about it at budget,
Okay,
right?
and I know you and I have talked about it
Right.
individually too. Chief, I think what some members of the council would be looking for, and no, I don't think it was intended for you to have this information this evening,
Right.
is, you know, on a festival night, on a Thursday night, for instance, how many man hours is that? How many dollars is that type of deal? Is that right, Councilman Pope?
That's my
The rest of the
question
council,
is,
is
I
that-
just want to make sure during the budget process that Chief understands that if we ask them to provide more service, there's also the accompanying budget allocation in order to do those services that we ask. And that's my point in getting the numbers and discussing this.
If you have any other things you'd want to see, I'd just suggest maybe run it by Nathan first, and then he can get it to Chief, and Chief can get back to us, maybe in a memo or something. as
Yeah,
we go
certainly
forward.
we could also provide an hourly rate so that one might make their own computation
There you go.
based on how many officers one might think is required at a particular event and the length of time that they're required. Then we can do some quick math, and
Yes, sir,
it could be
Dr. Pope.
applicable to a lot of different things.
Maybe we could follow up on this at our August 2nd public safety meeting, so we would be prepared then for the budget talks.
I will have that for you.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great.
But you might try to have it before then, because I'm working on the budget kind of as we speak, so.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments or questions or discussion on 2012-38 as substituted. Seeing none, I feel you're ready to vote. Roll call, please.
Carroll.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
No.
Weber.
Aye.
Bray.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have third reading of 2012-39.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the 2011-2012 budget of the City of Jefferson by appropriating additional funds within the general fund.
Janice.
Thank you, Mayor. This supplemental appropriation recognizes funds recently received to be used in the city's household hazardous waste program per the city's agreement with Allied Waste Services. And I might add that in 2011, 9.5 tons of waste was collected in the household hazardous waste program and recycled or disposed of in a proper fashion rather than going to our landfill.
Any idea, Janice, what that was the year before? Are we seeing a big increase there?
I
Seems
think
like more people are
yes,
more
it is being used more.
thoughtful about that, I guess, would be the right word to use. Any discussion from the council or questions? Bob Scrivener.
Has there been any, is the volume such that there's been any consideration that maybe regular hours might be better than by appointment, or is by appointment seem to be satisfactory?
It seems to be working all right for now, but we would certainly consider adding regular hours if
Could
we
you
get the
kind of,
demand for that.
could you kind of describe who, if I call for an appointment, what is a city staff person going to meet me there?
Yes.
Is that what basically happens? So there's really no particular cost to us by doing it that way. I would assume that for as long as we can do it that way, it would be best. But I just wondered if we might get more participation if it was a little more convenient. So anyway, I'm glad to see the numbers.
Okay, any other questions or debate? Seeing none, I think you're ready to vote. Roll call, please.
Henry. Mahalovich.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Bray.
Aye.
Carroll.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have third reading of 2012-40.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the 2011-2012 budget by appropriating additional funds within the Park Fund.
Mr. Lockwood.
Thank you, Mayor. This bill authorizes a supplemental appropriation recognizing grant revenues in the amount of $352,698 and appropriates those funds to the completion of the East Branch Greenway project, which is currently under construction.
Sorry about the pause. The city clerk told me that she thought she heard thunder. Did you bring that? Meteorologist is here. Did you bring that with you? Okay. Okay, any questions of Bill on 2012-40 by the council? Seeing none, any debate? Roll call, please.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Bray.
Aye.
Carroll.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Anything from the council on 17 through 23? Seeing none, as your mayor, I would like to remind you about Salute to America. It is July 3rd and 4th. Obviously, thank a veteran for all their service and service to our country throughout the years. And we are officially adjourned. Have a great night.
So moved. To adjourn.
Oh, okay. All in favor? All opposed? It's one of those nights. That's right. No one's opposed tonight. Thanks, guys.
Are you going to be running?